When we discuss all-time great hip-hop groups, we often mention 3 6 Mafia, we often mention Wu-Tang Clan, NWA, when you're looking at duos as well, which could be in the group category, Outkast, Little Brother, Mobb Deep, The Pharcyde. I could go on and on and on and list so many more. I'd have Injury Reserve in this conversation as well. They should be in the conversation for you too. They should be. But adding to that list, among all of the others that I didn't mention, because there'll be many more that I didn't say, we need to start adding Clipping. We need to do it. We need to do it, man. Clipping are those guys now. They are in that conversation. And I would even go as far as saying that what has solidified that, for sure, even if you could say they were there before, I would say this new album solidifies that. This now has put them in a tier that absolutely puts them in like GOAT conversations for me. Yeah, I don't want to see them just being affiliated with Death Grips or Dialect or any other like industrial experimental hip hop groups anymore. I want to see them amongst the big boys in those conversations, because what these guys can craft is remarkable. Not only just with this album, but every single album, even if I don't come out of all of them loving them. I don't love every single one of their albums, I don't. But I come out of them with just an absolute infatuation with the way they come up with concepts, the way they structure the lyrical ideas, the narratives, the layers of detail. I'm just in awe every single time. And if it weren't just for those things, you've also got Daveed Diggs' amazing rapping. You've got the production that is just absolutely stellar as well. Like, these guys are absolutely one of one. They are one of one. There is nothing else out there like this. And even if you were to compare them to other industrial groups or experimental groups, you'd be not really doing a great job, because who can come up with an album like Splendor and Misery? Who can come up with Visions of Bodies Being Burned? Who can do that? Who is doing that? In the history of hip-hop, who has done those albums, man? And Dead Channel Sky is another addition to the glorious concepts that Clipping are able to come up with. This is a futuristic dystopian world where technology has basically taken over the world, and the life that we live is not really what we ever once saw it. I will say, before I get into the review, this isn't a completely new concept. Like, some of the ideas that I played with on this album, you've seen in, like, you know, TV shows, films for years. You know, I could list off so many classic things, like The Matrix, for example, or maybe even looking at more recent stuff like a Black Mirror, Mr. Robot. Like, sure, this isn't a completely new idea, but to do it in the way that they're doing it on this album is incredibly fresh. And again, in the world of music, it's just like very much unheard of and feels completely, you know, unique and one of a kind. One thing I like about this album as well is that industrial core nature of their sound is still there, but the glitchiness kind of makes you feel like, you know, you're in this technological dystopian future that adds to the atmosphere of the album, that adds to that kind of like desolate feeling that the album gives off, while also maintaining the classic isms that you've heard from Clipping in the past. Like, I love that they were able to make the production feel familiar while also feeling completely new and fresh, and adding to the atmosphere and you know, the entire theme of this album. It's incredibly clever. First 2 tracks do that incredibly well, with Dominator, with those like kind of like pitched up vocals, you know, I'm the one and only, I'm the one and only. That makes you kind of feel like a robot is speaking to you, which is awesome. Freaking Change the Channel, which has this like big beat Prodigy vibe to it. Honestly, I'm pretty sure it may even be like at least a reference to the Prodigy, or if not, maybe even an interpolation, because goddamn, that feels way too familiar to what the Prodigy were doing. But again, they had that kind of futuristic sound to their music as well, that kind of big, brash sound and energy, but also kind of makes you feel like you're entering this completely new realm, which is cool. The song has a hacking theme to it. This is essentially where the album kind of kicks into gear and gives you that real like view of what they're going for with this album. Quite a few of the tracks across the album do have like, you know, references to hacking and things like that, and have entire songs built around, you know, hackers in this dystopian world, which is really cool. What does he say? He says asbestos is the best breakfast. And maybe the way I'm saying it didn't sound that good, but Daveed Diggs flowing it the way he does, it rolls so incredibly well. Like, that line will be stuck in my head for a long time. The way he says it and how it lines up is so brilliant. What a song. Again, kind of gives you like classic Mr. Robot vibes. Anything that, you know, wants you to kind of bring you into that world of like dystopian stuff. You're not gonna be out of place listening to this album. This one is very much truly for those kinds of nerds, and I'm happy to call myself one. Code is another track as well, where it's kind of like this fresh new take on how the world works in the futuristic times, you know, kind of like way far into the future. I do sometimes think like as a society, we do think of ourselves being a little bit further ahead than we actually are, because like when you kind of go outside and go to kind of like rundown areas, you kind of realize that yes, technology has progressed a lot, but honestly a lot of places don't really feel that far advanced. But listening to these kinds of songs taking you that far into the future, and like, you know, he's talking about like having a fresh new skin for his avatar and things like that, like having to like live your life in that kind of like, you know, video game realm. It makes it really feel like very alien, and makes you feel very much like, okay, we are very in a completely new idea for how society works. Scams as well kind of brings this new energy to how Clipping are touching on how this society works, because even though things may be completely new and fresh, and you know, technology is kind of like the absolute pinnacle of greatness, it still depicts how people can find ways to get around things, and you know, use different methods to scam you, and like, you know, make their lifestyle about scamming others, which is how I interpret the track anyway. I mean, the protagonist seems to be this girl who's like scamming for profits and stuff, and then the female feature coming on a little bit later on, I feel, is like telling the story from her perspective, which is something that Clipping have always done incredibly well, where they've got this narrative running through a song, and then they've got the feature coming in, and they kind of like take over the story and like tell it from their perspective. They've done this on previous albums. They did it on Visions of Bodies Being Burned as well. Tia Namor is the rapper that comes on. I wasn't entirely familiar with who she was, so I wasn't entirely sure of like exactly where she's come from here, but this is a cool thing about Clipping. They'll put artists on, they'll put on rappers that nobody's really checking out. They've also got A$AP Rock on this album too, which is pretty cool. But yeah, they'll also have completely unknown names being put on a pedestal, which I think is always great about what they do. You've got tracks such as Mood Organ, which very much takes a page out of the Black Mirror book and just takes you to a totally new world of how you can, you know, live and control your emotions. And there was probably a Black Mirror episode in the bank that would be built around this, where you can basically just type into a keyboard, do some coding, and you can pick the mood that you're currently feeling. It's kind of wild. It's a really freaky sort of thing that feels a bit too alien and unrealistic for it to ever be a thing. But I like that they're playing with concepts that feel so unique, and again, just add to this society that feels like maybe from the outside you think is, oh my god, this is incredible, but when you dig deeper you realize that things aren't so good, and the capitalist methods that run society now still exist there too. It's got this kind of like underground club scene vibe, where people are kind of like just like taking drugs and just like living life. the high life, I guess you will, but also all of the dangers that come along with that, and the potential death that comes along with that too, or the potential arrests that you can get from being associated with different types of drugs and things. Again, just kind of like another way to look at society, even though it's so far into the future, and see how it still mirrors what we have today. Dodger is this one track I wanted to mention, which I think is the highlight for the album for me personally, even though the whole album is pretty damn great, as you can probably tell with the way I'm talking about it. But yeah, this track for me was so brilliant in how it's executed. I can't believe they came up with this idea for a song, because this feels like an Amazon Prime miniseries or a Netflix miniseries. Like, this feels like it should be like 4 or 5 episodes of an entire story and an entire world being built that you follow along with for a pretty decent period of time, and yet they've done it in like a friggin' 4 whatever minute song. It's ridiculous. But yeah, impressed as hell with how they come up with these ideas, man. Across all of their albums, they do it every single time, but this one with this like data analyst who is working for the society, working for the kind of broken society that we live in, but she's very much on the side of that, and she's paid to be somebody that stops any people trying to break in and meddle with that. And this dodger, or this hacker, meddles with the system and manages to spawn a virus into the data or like the computer system, and then ends up managing to kill the president through it. But yet she ends up becoming friends with this dodger, and then ultimately ends up having feelings for this dodger because of how she's just kind of infatuated with the way he does things, and how he's so rebellious and is so very much for the people, and even though she thought she was for the people. And yeah, that's kind of how it ends, and she ends up having to decide whether she should be with the enemy, despite the fact that she was trying to defend the people. But she's suddenly in this like, I don't know now. It's crazy. It's a crazy little story here, but yeah, just the cyberpunk nature that comes through makes you feel like you're friggin' playing Watch Dogs or something, which is a pretty fun game actually, and I'm not much of a gamer, so that gaming reference is a rare one for Not Real Music, I'll tell you that. But yeah, just the whole thing just makes you feel like you've just entered a new story, and yeah, they do it so effortlessly. With all that being said, like, I haven't really mentioned huge amounts about the music though, but like the drum and bass feel of that track, and then across the entire album, the incredible instrumentals, the flows that David pulls through. His rapping is just insane. He can switch up his flow just like that, and he knows when to break it up, and he doesn't just do the constant rapid fast rapping all the time. He can slow it down, he can change the pace, he can pull in a crazy hook as well that sticks in your head. But some of the bridges on this album are insane. Some of my favorite moments come through the bridges because of just how catchy they are and how good David sounds, and then the incredible production that comes along with it all as well. I think I've already said that. Like, just the whole thing, it has this incredible vision, incredibly layered, dense, lyrical focus, while also just being so great to listen to. It's just like, how do you have it all? You have it all. Last couple of tracks play with the escapism idea and how this society is run, and how you can be a hero, you can be a villain, but you don't really know exactly what your role is or exactly what you're escaping from. And it just kind of plays with this idea again, kind of touching on the dystopian themes in a really cool way, particularly the track with A$AP Rock, of course, which very much tackles that theme very much head on. And yeah, I think the whole thing comes together extraordinarily well, while also just maintaining, as I've already said, just incredible production throughout, really engaging rapping and engaging beats and engaging flows that just really lock you in and make you just immediately want to just read every lyric so you understand everything. And let's be real, man, I've tried my best to kind of capture a lot of these themes in this review, but I will have missed a lot of things. Like, there's only so much you can do through a few listens. Like, it probably will take me quite a few months to pick out little bits and bobs here and there, because David is so wordy and David is so thoughtful with his lines that there will be some double entendres and things like that throwing out there that I've not completely latched onto. But that's the brilliance of clipping. There's always something that you pick out later on and you always miss the first time around, and then suddenly later you're like, oh my god, that's so cool. And it's pretty damn great. It's pretty damn great. I am having a lot of fun with this, and yeah, there's a few like tracks that are very much just interludes that kind of just have this like glitchy production, which does highlight some of the production techniques used on this album. There's maybe one too many of those, but generally that's like my main critique of this. Like, I think the entire thing runs incredibly well. Again, with the themes, it's pretty damn great, man. I dropped the ball with the last Clipping album. I gave it a 7 out of 10 on review, and then as the year went on, I realised that I'd missed quite a few things with the themes and noticed how brilliantly executed that album was. And then ultimately I realised that actually I should have given it at least an 8, and then it ended up on my year-end list. And yeah, I don't want to make that mistake this time. I have to give it the score it deserves on review and make sure that I'm hyping this up immediately, because this is very much for me an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a great album, definitely in the conversation for being my favourite album of the year so far, which in March doesn't mean a huge amount, but I do want to highlight that at this point in time. This is very much up there for me, and I'm not dropping the ball this time. I'm not getting it wrong this time. I have to highlight the greatness of what they're doing here immediately. And definitely one of my favourite albums of theirs too. Love the theme, love the cyberpunk nature of it all, love the kind of mysterious energy and the cool concepts that they come up with within each track. They're just one of a kind, man. They really are. And that is going to be it from me. Thank you as always for watching my review. I love the fact that people engage with these and are interested in what I have to say. So thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully you share it around as well. If you do, if you like the review, make sure you stick it around. Subscribe for more reviews like this in the future. If you're feeling really generous, you can support me over on Patreon, and you get some perks over on there as well, or the membership page on YouTube, whichever you prefer. You get the same perks on both, really. So yeah, thank you as always. Do have a good day, and goodbye.